Hello friends, Tom Downey here for Chat Sports. The NBA draft is almost here, so we're going to break down all the latest news and rumors right before the NBA draft gets started. We'll start things off with the New Orleans Pelicans. They are kind of the linch point in this year's draft is the term I'll use. Don't know if it makes sense, but I'm going to use it anyway. They could go up, down, stay put. If they go up, the latest report is that they are trying to assemble assets to get to number 2 so they can draft R.J. Barrett and pair him with good buddy Zion Williamson. Now, this is not much of a surprise, this next point, but the Memphis Grizzlies have a very high asking price. They have already shipped away Mike Conley. They need a point guard. Now, there could be a scenario where they trade down, get extra assets, and then take would assume Darius Garland with John Morant going number 3 to the New York Knicks there. But the Pelicans are at least exploring the idea of finding a way to get up to number 2. Now, there's no doubt it would be a pretty expensive trade. So, I have a rather outlandish, crazy 3-team trade idea. Here's what it looks like. The Pelicans get number 2. The Grizzlies get number 4 and number 6. And to help the Grizzlies get that 6th pick, the Pelicans send Jrue Holiday and a future first over to the Phoenix Suns. The Suns get a still fairly young point guard of the present and future. Memphis then has 2 top 6 selections to take a point guard at number 4 and a wing player at number 6. Now, I know it's kind of crazy. I ran it by our NBA draft expert, Jimmy, here. He said maybe the Suns end up saying no, and that might be the route they end up going there. But remember, it's expensive to get to number 2, and that type of crazy trade scenario that would be required is also why I don't think you're going to end up seeing the New Orleans Pelicans getting all the way up to number 2. Let's take a look here with what else the New Orleans Pelicans could do, potentially moving down from that number 4 overall selection. Now, several teams here are in the mix to try and trade up and most likely get Darius Garland, the point guard from Vanderbilt. One such team here are the Minnesota Timberwolves. Here's what a trade package could look like, and this is the reported trade package that the two sides are discussing. Number 11, Robert Covington goes to the Pelicans, and Minnesota gets the number 4 overall pick. Now, my first thought is, couldn't the Pelicans do a little bit better / ask for more? It definitely makes sense from Minnesota's perspective. Jeff Teague isn't really the type of guy you want there at the point guard spot. Robert Covington can be shipped away. That's one of the few players the Timberwolves have on a good contract that they'd actually be willing to give up. The Pelicans, meanwhile, they do need more wing help. They have Brandon Ingram. We're just going to assume they take Zion because, well, they're going to take Zion. Solomon Hill isn't really an asset at this point, so if you're New Orleans, you wouldn't mind adding another 3/4 player who can play on the wing and provide some extra spacing there. Now, the Pelicans, of course, have high asking price. I think that's the big thing. Now, for Minnesota, of course, they're after Darius Garland, and they're trying to get to number 4, of course. They're not the only team, but again, Minnesota, do they actually have the assets? Maybe it's Dario Saric instead of Covington. Both make some sense there. Garland, though, is drawing a lot of interest right now as the potential favorite for number 4 if there's a trade. Not sure the Pelicans would actually take Garland if they have Jrue Holiday and Lonzo Ball already on the roster, both of whom can play point guard. So what should the Pelicans do at number 4? Type 1 for trade up, type 2 for trade down, and type 3 if they should just stay put. If they can't trade up, I think trading down makes the most sense for the Pelicans. Add extra assets, be it this year or next year, and also end up with another player potentially as well. Speaking of teams that could trade up, how about the Boston Celtics? The report out of Boston from the Boston Globe is that the Celtics are also targeting Darius Garland. Now remember, they've got picks 14, 20, and 22, and frankly, they're probably not going to bring all 3 players into training camp this year, so maybe you package them and try to move up. Issue is for Boston, 14, 20, and 22 is not enough for 4. They'd have to include a player, if not just outright a player by itself. And would they really trade like a Jaylen Brown for the number 4 overall pick? So I do believe the report that Danny Ainge would like to try to trade up, but much like Minnesota, I don't know if the assets and what the Boston should and would be willing to give up actually ends up making the most sense. But with Kyrie Irving, by all accounts, gone from Boston, point guard is a need. Marcus Smart can play that role, but he's certainly not the same caliber of player in terms of upside that Darius Garland brings to the roster. The Knicks have rejected a previous trade offer from the Atlanta Hawks for that number 3 overall pick, and the report this one out of New York here, is that from that same New York Post report, is that they're happy to take Ja Morant and R.J. But of course, this came out before the Darius Garland report, but I'm still more inclined to believe this one. Now, Barrett clearly wants to play in New York. He has passed on working out for the Grizzlies. He wants to go number 3 to the Knicks. Now, this was the trade offer the Knicks rejected. The Hawks get number 3, and they send number 8, number 10 to the Knicks. That's kind of a no-brainer for me if you're New York. There are 3 clear-cut top players in this year's draft, then it's everybody else. So getting 8 and 10 is not worth it for me if I'm New York. I think they made the right call there to reject that trade. Take R.J. Barrett. If you're the Knicks, you're trying to find that next superstar. There might be 3. Of course, it's no guaranteed thing. There might be 3 of them in Barrett, Zion, and Ja Morant. No Darius Garland. The other ones aren't as likely. There are legitimate concerns with those players' upside there. So if you're the Knicks, if you get a Godfather offer to move down a couple of spots, and maybe that's why you've leaked the Darius Garland thing, makes some sense. Otherwise, just stand pat. Take R.J. Barrett, play him on the wing as your budding potential young superstar alongside hopefully some trio long-term of Dennis Smith, Mitchell Robinson, and Kevin Knox if those guys develop. Moving now to Coby White, the Knicks here. He had a private workout for the Knicks on draft day, which I find fascinating because the Knicks, by most accounts, are locked into taking R.J. Barrett. What I think this is the Knicks hearing the same buzz of, oh man, wait a minute. What if someone trades up to 2 to take R.J. Barrett, or Memphis pulls a stunner? Well, then who do they go at number 3? Maybe they just trade down altogether. So they're kind of doing, I think, their due diligence here. Working out Coby White. They also worked out Darius Garland. R.J. Barrett, of course, still makes the most sense. And the Knicks, you could bring in a point guard. I know you have Dennis Smith Jr. Maybe he becomes more of a 6th man. Coby White, Garland both have high upside there for the New York Knicks. But again, I think this is more of New York just doing their due diligence. Yes, the timing is frankly weird. You bring in Coby White and Darius Garland days before the NBA draft. It's curious / outright, frankly, kind of weird as well. But I do think the Knicks in the end will target R.J. Barrett at number 3. All right, folks, type S if you are already subscribed. If you're not, well, just hit the big red button on your screen there. If you need the link, it's right there below you, youtube.com/chatsportstv. Let's see a bunch of S's in the chat. Let's move then to Bol Bol, who is one of the most fascinating prospects because we don't know where he's going to go. He could go in the late lottery. Maybe he falls quite a bit. There is some major doubts about Bol Bol's injury. Only played in 9 games at Oregon because of that foot problem and barely got on the court since then. And frankly, he said himself that he had pre-draft workouts for the first time he practiced in 6 months. That's not a good sign. He also lost over 25 pounds. Now, the report out of Oregon, a local Oregon reporter, is that the Pacers have interest and he could be the likely destination, which I find weird. They have Miles Turner already. Now, yes, because Bol Bol is so undersized, you might want to try and have him play some 4, but if you're Indiana, does a pairing of Miles Turner and Bol Bol actually make a ton of sense? I'm not convinced that it is. Sabonis played pretty well there. You're trying to find a point guard too, most importantly, be it in free agency or through the draft, more likely free agency. And yes, the upside is sky high with Bol, and maybe that makes it an intriguing option for Indiana all the way down to number 18 overall. I just don't know if I like the fit of Bol Bol and Miles Turner, and you certainly wouldn't want to trade away Miles Turner. There's been a little bit of rumor out there that, hey, maybe you see the Pacers try to make a move and ship Turner to get a higher draft pick, which I also wouldn't like that much. So not sure if I really buy that one from the Pacers' perspective. But for Bol Bol, what team's going to draft him? Let us know in the chat who you think will take Bol in this year's draft. I assume the first round, but the actual pick itself and what number it is very much up for debate. So let me know what you guys think in the comments section. All right, one last rumor here around the Golden State Warriors. Now, if you've heard of this name, very tough to pronounce, Alan Smiljic, as I botched that one right there. Smiljic, excuse me. Played for the Warriors G League affiliate this year, and there were some accusations that Golden State was trying to hide him and make him a little bit quieter, and let's not showcase him, so he ends up going earlier. The Warriors know him. GM Bob Myers called him a draftable player, and now Golden State picked up the 41st overall pick, giving them an extra second-round pick from that deal with the Atlanta Hawks, just in case they want to pull the trigger earlier on him. I don't know which pick, if it's at the end of round 2 or if it's at number 41 overall. But as a betting man, I kind of think you'll see Golden State. In fact, I think you'll see Golden State take him at some point in round 2. I mean, they know him better than any NBA team out there because they've seen him work and practice with their G League affiliate. I think it makes a lot of sense for Golden State to pull the trigger on this one here. Maybe not at 41, maybe it's down there at 58, which is what the original report was, but with 2 second-round picks on the board, this makes a lot of sense for Golden State.